passage of this gospel, the key passage, which unfortunately I butchered in the reading, deserves to be commented on for a number of reasons. When Peter asked the Lord, how often must I forgive someone who has offended me? He says, he asked the question as many as 7 times, 7 being the perfect number among the Jews, so indicating, great generosity. And yet our Lord answers, I say to you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Some translations say 7 times, 7 times. But this multiplication of 7s indicates, an unlimited number. And this is a particularly Christian point of view, that we should forgive one another as the Lord has forgiven us. We are to be known by the way we love each other. And we are called to love without boundaries. We are not a sect. We are not a national church. We're not Jewish. All of us, some of us are Jews. Most of us are Gentiles. We come from all over the world. We belong to different races, different languages. We have different languages. But we are the universal church, the Catholic Church, because the Lord has knocked down the boundaries which offer us excuses to separate ourselves from others and consider ourselves somehow privileged or in a position where we are not called to forgive. Not just members of our family, our friends, or even members of our own religion, but all people. And our Lord talks about how if we treat our family and friends in a nice way, what reward is there to be seen in that? What virtue is there to be seen in that? Because even pagans, those who are not followers of Christ, do the same. We are called to love as the Lord has loved, and to continually forgive. And that means forgiving those who we personally deem not to be worthy of forgiveness. We are called to love those who we personally might deem not to be worthy of our love, and to recognize in those instances that the problem is not the other person. The problem is me if I fail to live by the standard. Of course, it's a high standard. There's no question about it. When our Lord says, love one another as I have loved you, this is the way he's loved us. He's loved us from the cross. And not because we deserved it, but because he wanted to make, not because we were his friends, but because he wanted to make us his friends. So this is a difficult passage, and it can be misunderstood. I remember hearing a psychologist reject Christianity precisely for this doctrine, because you can't and shouldn't, it's not healthy for you or for other people, as this was said, to forgive unlimitedly. You need to have boundaries. You need people, there needs to be consequences. You need to protect yourself. You can't live this way and work for your legitimate welfare, your necessary and legitimate welfare. But that's not the doctrine of the church. It's not what Jesus is saying. It's not saying that there shouldn't be boundaries or consequences for the bad actions of other people. Doesn't mean that we don't protect ourselves, or that we don't protect our families or work for justice. That's not what it means. But it does mean, like Jesus, that we are willing to put the good of others, at least on par with our own good. Christian doctrine really is that we put God first and our neighbor before us in many respects. That we love others as Christ has loved us. It has to cost. So I say this because right now there's a lot of debate over, what we're supposed to do about the virus, etc. And a friend of mine wrote an article about this question, and some people saying that, the courageous thing to do, if you're really an upstanding person and is not to worry about protecting yourself from the virus, and somehow this is thought of as courage. Part of courage is resistance against evil. I know some people think that this is resistance against evil, but the most fundamental part of courage for a Christian is endurance. It's Jesus on the cross. And it doesn't mean that we don't resist evil. What it means is that when we see evil being done to those who are poor, neglected, who are vulnerable, who are discriminated against, that we stand up and do the right thing, even if it costs us, even if we have to endure suffering, then we are willing to do that because it's the right thing to do. It's not a sort of selfish courage, which is putting our welfare first over the welfare of others. And so there's both sides of this, resisting evil and being like Christ on the cross. Our Lord resisted evil. That's why he got crucified. But he accepted his crucifixion for our sake because of his love for us. So let us remember how the Lord has loved us. And, sometimes, we have to act on our convictions. We always have to act on our convictions, and people won't like our convictions. That's fine. But we always have to remember that Christ is the ideal. The bitter anger, the resentment, the cultivation of opposition and antagonism is not the way of the Lord. Let us show forth our true courage and our true commitment to justice by our willingness to identify with Christ and to enter more deeply into his cross and resurrection.